Hey everybody, welcome back. Mikey Dubs coming back at you. It's more OG MW2 content. In today's video, we're going to be doing a map tier list. This is a video that's been recommended to me by some of my viewers in the comments, and it's something I've been looking forward to doing. Now, the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 2023 just came out, and it reused all of the maps from Modern Warfare 2. So this is kind of going to be a joint tier list. I haven't looked at the maps in the new game. I don't really intend on buying the new game. But the things that applied to this video will more than likely apply to the new game as well. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, so for our tiers, we're going to be mixing it up a little bit. And we have S through D, and then we have a not enough time tier. Not enough time just means I haven't put enough time into the map to have a real strong opinion. This is going to be mostly applicable for some of the DLC maps. As you can see, I have a Derail tier, and so we'll start with Derail. Derail's a very large map. It's mostly flat with some dips and dives and some snowy hills. It's a map that can be very fun if you're the team in control of it, which is, you could say about any of these maps. But I have a few problems with Derail. Number one, the center building has so much control of the map. It has windows that can see about 75% of it, and the one part of the map that the windows can't see is that very open dead zone on the backside of the map that no one really goes anyways. Control of the center building controls the entire map, which sounds kind of like a headquarters map, which could be kind of fun. The problem is, it's just a Claymore haven. Moving beyond that, there are two major spawn zones in the map. You have the far corner building. That's a very dark area, hard to see into when you're around it, that has tons and tons of little catwalks and windows to peek out of. When people spawn back there, a lot of time they just never leave, and it just makes the game super unfun. Then you have the spawn where you can climb the ladder and get on top of what looks like this sort of gas station type area. And usually that's the more fun side to have a battle going, because even though people are up there head glitching, there's at least a series of cover that you can use in front of you to advance onto the house. For me, that's where this map shines, when you have the center building versus that back spawn with the ladders, because it's kind of like a paintball match and you're trying to gain control of the house. If we could just take Derail and delete everything that's beyond the middle house towards that back dark building, I think the map would be so much better. You would remove much of the power the center building has, and you would make it kind of just a one building versus one building, sort of like Newtown. I think the map would be really great. But for now, because it's so big, and you spend most of your time running around and not your time actually engaging in fights, it's going in the Derail tier. I'm sorry. Next up, we have Invasion. Now, Invasion is a map that I personally have always enjoyed. It's a relatively flat map, like Derail. On one side of the map, you have Big Blue and another building you can climb on top of. And on the other side, you have the Alamo-esque building. Invasion is a pretty simple 3-lane map. On one lane, you have that very long sight line with the trucks. On the other lane, you got lots of small buildings that you can hide in. But these buildings don't have that much power because they're more niche for camping, and they don't see a whole lot of the battlefield. And the middle lane is just chaos. So much fun to run from building to building, and it's a really great time. As far as urban maps in this game are concerned, I put Invasion actually above most of the rest. And for me, I'm going to be putting it in A tier for great maps. Okay, so next we'll cover two DLC maps that I haven't really had the time to play, and that is Fuel and Trailer Park. Now, I have played these maps, Trailer Park more recently than Fuel. From my impressions is that they're not the greatest maps. I don't want to put them in like the Derail tier, because Derail I played a ton, and I can certifiably tell you that it's my least favorite map in the game. These maps, they seem okay-ish. I don't really have enough experience, so for now they're going in the not enough time tier. The same can be said for Salvage and Storm. Even though I have played on these maps, there's just not enough information for me to tell you that they're that great. And honestly, that might indicate that maybe they just aren't so memorable, and maybe they're just not that fun to play. Who knows? But one map from the DLCs that I do like a lot is Carnival. Carnival was the map that my friends and I used to play hide and seek on back in the day. It's got a ton of fun zones. It's got a roller coaster, it's got those shops, it's got the fun house, it's got a castle area. Lots and lots of fun places to go. Now, this is not a traditional 3-lane map. It's more of a circle type map, where as you go around the circle, you go through different attractions. Balance-wise, spawn-wise, I couldn't tell you if it's healthier or less healthy than other maps, but aesthetic and theme, it nails. And you might hate me for doing this, but because of its amazing theme, I'm putting it in the skipping as banned tier. If you're skipping Carnival, I'm sorry, there's something wrong with you. Alright, next let's talk about Rust. Now, Rust is this game's small map. It's an iconic small map because it's mono for 2. And for ranking Rust, it's not so much how it ranks against the other maps in the game, it's how I feel it ranks against the other small maps. For example, COD 4 has Shipment. Black Ops 1 has Nuketown. Modern Warfare 3 has Dome and Hard Hat. Black Ops 2 has Hijacked. These are all amazing maps in their own right, so Rust has some crazy competition here. I like the relative power of the highest location to the rest of the map. I like how getting to the very top gives you an angle on every spawn point, and it's very strong. But well-timed shots can win the day. I like how getting to the top is difficult, how you have to expose yourself by either running up the ramp or running up the ladder. I like how there's one spot on the map hiding inside the pipe that saves you from kill streaks. I like how there's sort of this middle secret area where you can get to places that people wouldn't really expect you to get to. The downsides are the same downsides that every small map has. The spawns can be atrocious at points, especially because this is not a one-side v one-side map. Similar to Carnival, this is more of a circle, or in this case, a box. There's no 3 lanes to be found in this map, which, unlike Nuketown, can get you in spawn points where you just spawn and get mowed down from someone that is right behind you, because sometimes there's just nowhere to spawn you in. But minus those, what I consider small downsides, I'm putting Rust in A tier for great maps. Next up we have Skidrow, and Skidrow and I have a complex relationship. One, I love the hallway. I love how the hallway is a very contested area, how the one side has the stairs that can see down the entire hallway, and controlling the stairs can grant you control of the battlefield. But the stairs have some vulnerabilities. There are 3 ways into the stairs that aren't the main hallway that can be very difficult to control, especially because claymores can't really protect the stairs all that much. You more have to rely on your reflexes and your aim. I'm learning to like the outside areas more and more, and the map has honestly grown on me since I've played as a kid. I'm a little bit biased because one of my first nukes on the channel was on Skidrow, and as far as getting nukes goes, I believe Skidrow is one of the harder maps in the game to do it on. But for me, there's enough long sight lines, there's enough short sight lines, there's a place for every kind of player to go on this map, and for that reason, I'm putting it in A tier for great maps, above Invasion and below Rust. Alright, next up we have Scrapyard. Now, Scrapyard is, for me, the most volatile map in this game. When you go to Rust, you expect Rust to be chaos. And to a certain extent, you would also expect Scrapyard to be chaos. But whenever you're loading the Scrapyard, there's something in the back of your mind that says, you know, I can control this map. I can run this map. I can be the person that never dies and always goes on the big kill streak. But then you get in, and you go 0-20. Because this map gets crazy hectic. The noob tubes on this map go absolutely insane. There's a ton of head glitch spots for people to abuse. And for me, whenever I see Scrapyard nowadays, I'm thinking to myself, this is either going to go great or it's going to go horribly. So as an experience, I actually don't put it in the highest echelons of maps. But objectively looking at the map and its design and how it flows, and it is chaotic. It is fun. It does look great with the different pipes, and the buildings are pretty well balanced, I would say. There's no one side that has an advantage over the other, unlike some other maps. And because of the potential fun of this map, how potentially you could go absolutely off, I'm putting it in the skipping as banned tier. If you're one of those people who votes to skip on Scrapyard, that means you're afraid and you should log off the servers. Speaking of maps that people will vote for, we have Underpass. Underpass is a rainy map that is not flat. It has lots of elevation changes. Not the best visibility, tons of places to hide, it's camper's delight, lots of head glitches, and overall, probably not everyone's favorite map. Now, whenever I play it, I try to look at the bright side and think to myself, what do I like about it, you know? And usually, I really can't find a reason to like the map. I try and I try. I try to find zones I like, but I'm failing every single time. Flanking is difficult because there's lots of loud surfaces. I mean, if you're not running Ninja, then you really can't flank that much at all. People will always hear you coming. And no matter where you are on the map, there's a place to hide, making it just difficult to traverse in general. You're almost always going to run into somebody hiding in a corner. And I'm not going to say that I'm against stationary playstyles, but this map is just so stationary. It's very difficult to have a run and gun playstyle on this map, in my opinion. Not a very balanced map, and for that, I'm going to be putting it in the can't say I'm sorry tier. It looks like we had one DLC map. I think it's called Burnout. Correct me if I'm wrong, but either way, it's going to go in the not enough time tier. All these maps are just maps that I haven't had enough time to play. Especially nowadays, that whenever you get into a DLC map, the entire lobby gets disconnected. All right, next up we have Quarry. Now, Quarry is probably a map that you ended up voting a lot for back in the day to skip. As far as elevation goes, there's one very low point and one very high point. There's lots of spots to climb up and hide in this map and camp. But personally, I like playing on Quarry. It's hard to build kill streaks, yes. There's not a lot of places where you can go and be free from flankers. True. But I really like the big white blocks. You know, it's something that you can climb on and have fun and with it. It's just the aesthetic is super cool. The giant crane in the center is a kind of an underrated part of this map that people I don't think appreciate enough. And something about Quarry that I like is wherever you go, there's almost always a side route that can get you to the same place, but take you a little bit longer with less contest. Think about Quarry. Think about at the very top of the map, you have that main road where people are always trying to head glitch from either side. But if you just run a little bit more off to the side, you can get a flank angle. And that's kind of true for pretty much every single spot on this map. So I like the map. That being said, do I put it on the same tier as Skidrow and Invasion? I don't. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm going to be putting it in the barely not A tier, right where it's sitting. It's not as bad as Underpass, but to me it's just not as good as some of these other maps. A map that I feel is very similar to Quarry is Karachi. It's an urban map, it's got some fun places to go, but the up top area in the center is pretty annoying to deal with. Karachi is another one of those maps that's not really 3-lane, it's more of a big circle, which I kind of like, and there are some places in those areas that are really cool to run around in. I think Karachi kind of gets a little bit of a bad rap because it's hard to get a nuke on Karachi. There's lots of places to hide, huge indoor areas. One thing I like about Karachi is that for every building you can go into, there's always an upstairs area, but none of the upstairs areas are that impactful. None of them are so OP that they're like Derail, where it's just like, I have to go in there. No. The only spot on this map that's incredibly impactful is the very top of the map, and that's usually pretty contested. So I'm going to be putting it in the barely not A tier, but above Quarry. Next up, we have Overgrown, which I believe is a COD 4 map. This is a pretty large map that's got lots of cool, fun ghillie sniping places. Objectively, I don't think the map is that great. I can't think of a single zone in this map that I actually really enjoy fighting in. The center building is pretty fun, but the center building doesn't have a lot of places to look out. I think the hay bale area is kind of cool, but I'm not going to be recommending this map really to anyone to play. It's just, I would skip it if it comes up. I'm going to be putting it in the can't say I'm sorry tier underneath Underpass. Sorry. Next up, we have Strike. Now, Strike's a map that I played recently. It's a COD 4 map that they ported into Modern Warfare 2. And for me personally, I don't think Strike is very good at all. It's a kind of a chaotic mess. After playing it just recently, I honestly think that it's pretty much garbage. I'm going to be putting it in the Derail tier. There's not much to say about it. If you were to play on it now, you'd be like, what were they thinking? Alright, so far we've got a pretty good assortment, but we're coming down to some of the best maps in Modern Warfare 2. So let's go ahead and pick Estate first. Now, Estate is a map that I think has a lot of fans, but also has a lot of haters, and for good reason. Some of these areas are not fun to fight in. If you're in that high elevation side of the map that is adjacent to the house, where there's almost no cover, and you're fighting against people in the house, it's misery. In fact, if your opponents have control of the house, it can be very, very difficult to win the round. That being said, the map is called Estate, and I think kind of the whole idea is that you can fight for control of the house. Unlike Derail, however, it doesn't take you 3 years to run to the house from spawn. Regardless of where you spawn here, you can almost always get yourself into some fun action. I'm going to be putting it into A tier for great maps, above Skidrow, but below Rust. Plus, I really love the woods and the rocks design of it. It's a very cool wood and stone type atmosphere. Alright, next up we have Rundown. Now, Rundown is another urban-esque map. To me, it kind of feels similar to Karachi or Quarry or Invasion, right? These are all kind of similar maps in my brain. However, I like Rundown the most out of all of them. It's a little bit more wide open. Yes, there are window campers, but the window campers typically have shots on each other. So while the window campers are having their own little battle, the boots on the ground people are having their own as well. I think this map could do with a little bit of editing, namely that high up area with the double stairs near the farm, I think could be just deleted. There's no reason for that building to be back there. I personally believe if you just got rid of it, the map would be way, way better. I'm going to be putting it in the A tier for great maps, just below Skidrow. I think that's a pretty good place to put it. Alright, 6 maps to go, and spoiler alert, they're all pretty much bangers. Let's go to Highrise first. Highrise is iconic. It is the quintessential 3-lane map. 2 huge office-like buildings on either side, giant vertical areas in the center, fun places to go run to, which is something that we haven't really talked about yet, but Highrise has places that are difficult to get to. That if you get there, such as the top of the roof, are extremely powerful. This is something that more maps should incorporate. Now, Highrise is one of those maps that's susceptible to spawn camping, especially in Domination. If you play Domination, and you allow your opponents to get their immediate flag, either C or A, and let them get B flag, and let them get control of the high ground, you are going to be in for a bad time. But it gives you an objective on the map as soon as the game starts. Do not let those conditions happen. If you let those conditions happen, it's going to be a bad time. I think Highrise, plain and simply, is going to be going in the skipping is banned tier. And so far, I think it goes in the highest possible spot, above Carnival, above Scrapyard. Of the maps we've covered so far, to me, it's the most fun to play. Speaking of fun maps to play, we have Subbase. Subbase is the close range map in this game that's not named Rust or Scrapyard. Almost every single encounter that you're going to be getting in this game is going to be from close range, making it ideal for shotguns and SMGs and machine pistols and things like that. There is one long sight line on the backside of A, which if you want to get involved in some sniping duels or some light machine guns or long range assault rifle duels, you can go back there and have a good time. And you almost always have one team spawning on one side of that long sight line and the other team spawning on the other, which makes it pretty good fun. One of the teams that you can get on this map is the Navy SEALs, and their uniforms are like very strange color. It's very difficult to see. I think it does kind of give them an advantage. It is kind of awkward to talk about, but it's true. But as far as close range maps go, I mean, I think it's just a really great time. I mean, for me, Subbase is going in the skipping is banned tier. I'm putting it above Carnival and above Scrapyard for sure. Whenever I see Subbase, I get pretty excited. Yes, it's not the best for building a nuke streak because, well, 1, is very easy to die in the map, it's close range, and 2, there's lots of places to not get killed by kill streaks inside. But if you can put your quest for nukes aside for a moment and just think about Subbase on its own, objectively, it's such a fun map to play. Alright, next let's talk about Afghan. As far as primarily outdoor maps go in this game, it's my favorite. Giant airplane crash in the center is amazing. Places like the cave are incredibly cool. You have that small, maybe it's an illegal substance farm on one side, I'm not too sure. But regardless of where you are on this map, I feel like there's always a way out. Even if you're trying to traverse from the cave to the small bunker on one side, I think that that's even possible now that I found a small hidden area in the rocks I've never used before. I love how balanced the very top of the cliff is. The cliff gives you lots of viewpoints, but is also visible from lots of viewpoints. So if you're trying to be the cliff camper, you're actually in a very dangerous spot, which I like. I like high up areas that give you a great vantage point, but are also very easy to counter. And Afghan nails it. And that's something that Afghan nails across the board. Every single site of power on Afghan, whether it be in a bunker or in a cave or on top of a plane or on a cliff, every single one of them is easily counterable, but is powerful if used in the right way. I'm going to be putting Afghan in the skipping is banned tier. It's getting pretty crowded up there, but these are great maps. I'm putting it above Subbase because it's a little bit better at going for nukes, I believe, than Subbase. Plus, I'm a little bit partial because I've been to Afghanistan and it's a part of me in the game that I really enjoy. Alright, next let's talk about Favela. Favela is a map like Subbase, that is primarily close range, lots of little alleyways. It's this very urban area. I feel like this map, if it didn't get banned, would probably be in a lower tier in my opinion, but because it now has that sense of exclusivity, I think that people like it a lot more, including myself. If you think about it in terms of supply and demand, Favela is a map that I feel like has a reasonable amount of demand. People like playing it. But the supply of the map, meaning how often we get to actually play it, went way, way, way down. So now, if you ever get put into a Favela map, if you ban it, you are crazy. By definition, it has to go in the skipping is banned tier. Where do I put it amongst the skipping is banned maps? I put it actually above Highrise. This could just be nostalgia talking or what have you, but I feel like Favela is going to be a much more consistent, fun experience than what you might get out of Highrise. Alright, we're down to our last two maps, and they are both insanely popular, but for very different reasons. We'll talk about Wasteland first. Wasteland is an entirely outdoor map. There are a couple small buildings on the outskirts, but for the most part, this map is entirely outdoors. You have a small cave in the center that everybody fights for, and as far as center map fighting locations go, this one's fantastic. Could you imagine how much more fun the cave would be if NoobTubes didn't trounce every single map in this game? This map could go even harder. Now for nuke hunters, Wasteland is probably the best map in the game. If you're playing Team Deathmatch in Wasteland, it goes a little bit slower because of how big the map is, which allows people to build up kill streaks, and there's almost nowhere to hide from any kill streak in this game once a chopper gun or AC-130 goes up. If you like sniper battles, this map is your dream. Tons of places to lay down in the grass and go up against other snipers running silencers or Bear 50 cals, ghillie suits in the mist, so much fun. There's also tons of places for assault rifles, SMGs, shotguns, similar to some of the other maps I've mentioned. Regardless of your playstyle, there's a place for you to go on this map. Now, when you see Wasteland come up, I feel as though you will almost always see some votes for it go down. Personally, I think that's because of how susceptible you are to kill streaks when you play on Wasteland. Sometimes, if you're going up against a great player, they can turn Wasteland into a not-so-fun map for everyone but themselves. And so for that reason, I'm going to put it in A tier for great maps, because I can understand why you would skip it. But it's definitely going at the very top of A tier, just because of how much fun it is. Alright, last but most certainly not least, we have Terminal, and very clear that it's going to be going at the very top of the skipping is banned. While Terminal might not be an absolutely perfect map, it nails a lot of things. 1, theme. An airport is a fun place to put a map, period. 2, it has that fun traversal effect where you have Big Red in the middle, where you have to climb a ladder or climb a couple blocks to get up there. You can go inside of a plane that's fun to lock down. You can go into the cockpit. Just amazing stuff. A lot of the stuff in the map is also destroyable. If you go into some of the terminal areas, you can destroy computer screens and stuff like that. It's a lot of great fun. When you shoot the luggage, the clothes explode and pop out of them. It also is a map where if you're playing domination, you can get very easily spawn trapped. And I kind of like maps that incorporate a little bit of spawn trap. It gives the veteran players something to chase for. Rather than just running around pub stomping like you do on some other maps, playing on Terminal gives you an objective. Capture C, capture B, get on Big Red, and lock them down at A. There's a reason they brought back Terminal over and over and over again. The map is beloved, and honestly, I would like to see it in pretty much every single Call of Duty game. Alright, so we have a place for every map in the game. You'll notice that we're a little bit top heavy with a lot of maps in the S or the A tier. And that's because, well, this game has a lot of great maps. If we were talking about some other games, like some of the new Call of Duties, I feel like you would have a lot more maps in the lower tiers. But they were just nailing them back in the day. I mean, these maps are just fantastic to play on. All of the maps that are in the skipping is banned or the A tier for great maps, you just give me those maps in rotation and I'm a happy boy. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe to see more videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!